It has been 11 days now since Susan disappeared.
She vanished without a trace. A husband's lies, chilling clues, and shattered lives.
And there is one person's story you have not heard yet.
Susan Powell's story is one you can't afford to miss.
The last person to have spent time with Susan and Josh on the night she vanished.
It was a cold December morning in 2009, when Susan Powell suddenly vanished from her home in West Valley City, Utah. She was a devoted mother of 2 and seemed to have a normal life. But on December 7th, everything changed. Susan didn't show up for work, and no one could reach her. Her friends and family were immediately concerned because Susan was not the kind of person to disappear without a word. When police entered her home, they found something strange. Her purse, keys, and phone were all still inside. The house was cold, and there was a wet spot on the carpet that had recently been cleaned. Her husband, Josh Powell, told police he had taken their 2 young sons on a late night camping trip in the freezing cold. His story raised eyebrows. Who goes camping in the middle of the night during a snowstorm with 2 toddlers? As investigators dug deeper, Susan's past started revealing cracks in her marriage. Friends claimed she had feared for her life. She had even recorded videos and written a will expressing those fears. Despite multiple searches, no sign of Susan was ever found. Her disappearance shocked the nation and marked the beginning of a twisted and heartbreaking case that still haunts many to this day. Husband from the very beginning, Josh Powell, Susan's husband, was at the center of suspicion. His story about taking the kids camping in the freezing desert during the middle of the night just didn't make sense. Investigators questioned him repeatedly, but Josh remained calm, emotionless, and evasive. He refused to take a lie detector test and quickly lawyered up. As days passed with no sign of Susan, Josh's behavior became even more bizarre. He packed up his sons and moved to Washington State, away from Utah and away from scrutiny. He even stopped cooperating with police altogether. Josh's actions weren't just suspicious, they were chilling. Instead of focusing on finding his wife, he seemed more concerned about protecting himself. He gave strange interviews, avoided direct questions, and even claimed he was being treated unfairly. What made things worse were the journals, emails, and videos Susan had left behind. Clear signs that she felt unsafe. She wrote that if anything ever happened to her, people should look at Josh. Despite all this, there wasn't enough solid evidence to arrest him. As the investigation continued, it became painfully clear. Josh Powell wasn't just hiding something. He might have been the very reason Susan vanished. Clues as investigators searched for answers. Disturbing clues began to surface, each one painting a darker picture of what might have happened to Susan Powell. Forensics teams combed through the Powell home and found traces of Susan's blood on the floor. A fan was pointed at a wet spot on the carpet, suggesting someone tried to clean up something quickly. But without a body, the evidence wasn't enough to make an arrest. Susan had left behind a safety deposit box, which contained a handwritten will and a video. In it, she clearly stated that if she were to die, it would not be an accident. She expressed fear of Josh and concern for her children's future. These personal records added weight to her family's worst fears. One of the most chilling clues came from the couple's young son, Charlie. During an interview, he told investigators, "Mummy is in the mine." He also spoke of going camping and leaving Mommy behind. This statement raised suspicions that Josh may have taken Susan somewhere remote and hidden her remains. Police even searched abandoned mines in Utah, but the harsh conditions and vast landscape made the effort nearly impossible. Each clue deepened the mystery. They were fragments of a horrible puzzle, yet none were enough on their own. Susan was still missing, and Josh's silence only made the truth harder to find. Secrets behind the Powell family's closed doors, dark secrets were quietly festering. While Josh Powell acted like a concerned husband in public, investigators discovered a much more disturbing reality at home. Susan had confided in friends and family that she was deeply unhappy and even afraid for her safety. She wrote in her journal that her marriage was crumbling, and that Josh was controlling, manipulative, and often angry. But the darkest secret of all wasn't just about Josh. It involved his father, Susan Powell. When police searched Stephen's home, they found a disturbing collection of voyeuristic videos and photos he had secretly taken of Susan. He had developed an obsession with her, recording her without her knowledge, even stealing items like used cotton balls and underwear to keep as souvenirs. This shocking discovery added a new layer of horror to the case. Susan had been living in a toxic environment, surrounded by men who viewed her not as a person, but as something to control or possess. She had tried to hold her family together, but she was trapped in a web of secrets and fear. These hidden truths revealed that Susan's life was far more troubled than anyone had realized, and they pointed to the terrifying possibility that her disappearance was not just a tragedy, but a long-planned betrayal from within her own home. Kids after Susan's disappearance, her two sons, Charlie and Braden, became the center of a custody battle. They were placed with Susan's parents while Josh fought to get them back. But during supervised visits, red flags appeared. The boys started drawing disturbing pictures and talking about their mom being in a trunk. These innocent children unknowingly held the darkest pieces of the puzzle. Yet no one knew how much danger they were still in. Explosion on February 5, 2012, a shocking and final chapter unfolded in the Powell case. It was meant to be a supervised visit between Josh Powell and his sons, Charlie and Braden. The boys had been placed in the care of their grandparents, but Josh was still granted visitation under the watch of a state social worker. That Sunday, the boys ran ahead to the house. But the moment they stepped inside, Josh slammed the door shut and locked it behind them, shutting out the social worker. Within seconds, she smelled gasoline and heard the boys screaming. Before she could react or call for help, the entire house exploded into flames. Emergency responders rushed to the scene, but it was too late. Josh had brutally murdered his sons with a hatchet before igniting the home in a fiery inferno that consumed all three bodies. Authorities called it a murder-suicide, a final act of control and destruction by a man who knew he was cornered. The explosion wasn't just the tragic end of Charlie and Braden's lives. It was the devastating confirmation of everything Susan's family had feared for years. Josh had taken the ultimate step to avoid justice, and in doing so, destroyed what was left of his family. The world was horrified, and the story became a painful symbol of how the system failed to protect the most innocent. Justice. Even after more than a decade, the question still lingers. Was justice ever truly served in the case of Susan Powell? Josh Powell was never arrested, never put on trial, and never gave a full account of what happened to Susan. His final act, murdering his own children and taking his life, left the case frozen in time, with no confession, no closure, and no grave for Susan's family to visit. The lack of charges and solid evidence became a source of national outrage. How could a woman go missing, her blood be found in the home, her husband give suspicious statements, and still walk free for years? Many blame systemic failures, family court decisions, child protection services, and legal gaps that allowed Josh to keep seeing his children, even when warning signs were obvious. Susan's parents, Chuck and Judy Cox, have continued to fight for her memory. They advocate for better protective laws for children and domestic abuse victims. In Susan's name, they pushed for Susan's Law, aiming to limit parental rights in cases where a parent is a suspect in a violent crime. But to this day, Susan's body has never been found, and no one has been held fully accountable for her disappearance. The tragedy remains an open wound, and the justice system, though it tried, was never able to bring complete answers or peace. Was justice ever truly served for Susan Powell? Hit subscribe and tell us what you believe happened. Don't miss our next video, Natalie Holloway, A Cold Case Revisited.